This is the vlog for November 21st, 2018. And Isla is doing fine. Her mom is doing fine. Her mom, my sister, I should say. And my brother-in-law is doing okay. His back is getting a little bit better. He's had some back pain for the last week or so, or at least the last weekend. But he's slowly getting over it, and they're finding what hours they can to sleep. I don't know if I mentioned this previously, but we've sort of universally decided that tomorrow will not be our Thanksgiving. It is the nationally recognized day of Thanksgiving, but it will not be our Thanksgiving, which we're saving for Saturday. Just because, I think they were still in the hospital for most of the day. And, so what did I do today? Well, I went on an adventure. I went to the mall, which is the name for the large stretch of Washington, D.C. that houses multiple Smithsonian museums, multiple monuments, and the White House. I've only ever been to D.C. one other time. I was 8 or 9 years old, visiting a friend who lived in, or rather my parents were visiting a friend who lived in Delaware at the time. And Delaware was close enough that we took a drive into Washington, D.C., and we went to the Air and Space Museum, as well as the, I think, like the Jefferson Memorial or Monument. But today I went to the National History Museum of the United States. And it's fantastic. It's huge, as you might imagine. It is a multi-floor building, and each floor is jam-packed with these wonderful exhibits. It's a bit oriented towards kids, and I think that's the way it should be. Natural history is sort of a science that is great for getting kids to start thinking about bigger ideas and sort of stimulates the thought processes that help them grow as people. So it shows. In some places it's a little bit more simplified than maybe you or I, adults, would prefer, but it still has that marvelous level of spectacle that you expect from a museum dedicated to natural history. In particular, they have a mammal exhibit full of recreations of animals in fixed poses. No jerky animatronics to sort of create a uncanny valley sort of effect. They're all in action poses that look quite majestic. And it's a little bit like a zoo where all the animals are fixed in one position that looks really cool. They're not living animals. In fact, it made me sort of want to visit the Smithsonian Zoo, which is in the same area. I might be trying that on Friday. Tomorrow I'm probably going to go see a movie, given that it is Thanksgiving. I don't know how much stuff is going to be open, but I figure movie theaters in the early part of the day will probably be open. And I think actually the Smithsonian is supposed to be open, but it's also going to be very cold during the day. And I didn't feel like braving walking around DC for hours in that level of cold. The movie theater is only about 20 minutes away, so that's a lot more doable. I might even get a ride from my dad, depending. But it's so weird walking through Washington, D.C., because even when you don't intend to find things, you find them by accident. So after going to the museum, for example, I was feeling a little bit peckish. So I decided to look for a McDonald's, just easy, something that I know I can eat. I haven't had McDonald's in a week, so I sort of had a craving for it, I guess. And I found one. The nearest one, I was north of where I was. Anyone that ever finds this video and understands the layout of Washington, D.C., and hears me talk about an area north of the mall is going to know exactly what I'm talking about. So I go up a few streets, and it's very weird because walking by one building, I go, there's a lot of guards, police officers or gentlemen in guard uniforms standing around. And I look up and, oh, it's the Department of Justice. Just, it's there. And I cross the street, and the next building over is the FBI building. I mean, no lie. And the next street over was the McDonald's that I was trying to go to. The McDonald's I was trying to go to was on Pennsylvania Avenue. And as I said before, I've only been to Washington, D.C. one other time in my life. I was 8 or 9 years old at the time. There's one thing that I wanted to see more than any other, because it was the one thing that was like, how do you put it? A symbol of Washington, D.C., and that's the White House. But we didn't have time to swing by the White House. We were driving around Washington, D.C., and that was still problematic back in 1988, 87. God, Reagan was still president. No, actually, I take it back. If I was 9 years old, this would have been 1990. So George Bush, the first, would have been president at that time. And I think my dad wasn't interested in seeing a White House held by a Republican president, so we didn't make that effort. But I made the effort today, and I took a little selfie. See if I can find it real fast. I took a real picture of it, so don't think that I just got one selfie and called it quits. But yeah, there's me. Kind of hard to see because of the way taking a picture of a picture is with a camera on a laptop, but that building in the background is in fact the White House. I can confirm that myself. Whoever holds the office at any given time is transient. The building itself is a piece of our history, and we should embrace it, good or bad, because it's our history, and we shouldn't hide from history. I'm Eric Spornitz, and tomorrow will be better.